Hey everyone, Chris here with more stories in cardboard. For today's video, I want to take a look at some unsung and forgotten players of the American Football League. I wanted to do this video for a while, and I kind of got a little more recent inspiration from Terry and when he was talking about unsung players and the AFL. So I decided I would go ahead and put one of these together. As I started pulling cards, I realized there were a lot of players, too many players that I wanted to talk about. So I thought I would break it up and maybe make a little bit of a series out of this, because I didn't want to do a video that was an hour or 2 hours long talking about all these different players. But with that, let's go ahead and start showing some of these cards. The first one I've shown before. This is a 1960 Fleer Al Carmichael card of the Denver Broncos. It's a great pose. I love the color on this card with the green field in the bottom left-hand corner there and the yellow lettering. But he is known for scoring the first touchdown in AFL history. And I did show this card once before in my 5 cool cards to collect, one of those videos. But I wanted to show it again because I figured it would be a great way to kind of kick this series and video off. And this is a 1961 Topps Frank Trapuca. He is the quarterback who threw the pass to Al Carmichael. So he threw the first touchdown pass in AFL history. And Trapuca, he was a pretty good quarterback. He was, very productive and kind of well liked by teammates. And this is a really cool card with the dark green background there. I really like that card. He is also the father of former NBA player Kelly Trapuca. Now, you saw the first person to score a touchdown in the AFL and the first person to score a passing touchdown. But this is the person who scored the first points in AFL history. This is a 1963 Fleer Gino Cavaletti card. Now, Cavaletti was not drafted by any NFL team, and he kind of bounced around in Canada playing rugby and also a little bit in the CFL. And then when the American Football League was formed in 1960, he got a tryout with the Boston Patriots. And a case could kind of be made for him kind of being maybe the best all-around player in AFL history. And so let's talk a little bit about Mr. Patriot here. So he was one of 3 players to play every AFL game that his team played. The other 2 were Jim Otto and George Blanda. He was the all-time leading scorer in AFL history, and he owns 2 of the top 5 scoring seasons in pro football history, which is pretty amazing when you think about it. He finished his career with 10 in the top 10 in yards receiving and touchdowns receiving. He played a little bit of defensive back and once had 3 interceptions in a game, picking off Tom Flores of the Raiders 3 times. And he also returned kicks and returned punts. He was the MVP of the AFL in 1954, a 5-time All-Star. He's in the Patriots Hall of Fame, and his jersey number 20 is retired. I don't understand why he's not in the Hall of Fame. To me, it's a complete travesty. Just one of the great all-around players. He was actually the first superstar player that the Patriots ever had and was one of the biggest stars of the AFL. I love the 1963 Fleer set with the red border, and just it really makes it pop, and I think it goes really well with the red jersey in this case. And then you have that old school Patriot logo down in the bottom right hand corner there. And the backs of these cards are really nice also. With the red on the back here. Has a nice little bio write-up of him. Don't understand why he is not in the Hall of Fame. He may be the maybe one of the best players from the AFL that's not in the Hall of Fame. If he's not, this potentially could be that person. It's a 1965 Topps Jim Tyrer card. He was an 8-time All-AFL player. He was a really big, just dominating left tackle during the time that he played. He was 6'7", 300 pounds, which was really huge back in those days. He's a member of the AFL all-time team. And if you listen to a lot of the contemporaries and the people that played against him and with him, they say he was just absolutely the best, and nobody wanted to go against this guy. Ben Davidson of the Raiders was once asked, and he was a pretty big guy himself, he was once asked who the toughest player to go up against, and he mentioned Jim Tyrer. Now, he retired in 1975, and in 1980, he was a finalist. The first year he was eligible for the Hall of Fame, he was a finalist for the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And unfortunately, just a month or two later, he would shoot his wife and then turn the gun on himself and take his own life. And just a couple of months later, they actually named the members of that Hall of Fame, and they did not pick him, and many people believe, and obviously it was because of what happened. Now, his story is really interesting, and I think I want to be careful here not to excuse what he did, because that's just an awful thing that happened in a real tragedy. He had 4 kids that he left behind. 1 was in college. The other 3 were in the house when this happened. And what we know today about CTE, it's very likely that he suffered from CTE, as when he would block coming off the offensive line, he would many times, well, pretty much always lead with his helmet. And just there's a lot of evidence to suggest that he did suffer from CTE. Now, what is interesting is his wife's grandparents actually ended up raising the kids. And that's kind of an interesting story as well, because the parents of his wife forgave him, his kids forgave him. They all kind of believe and understood that a lot of this probably happened because of the CTE issue. And by all other accounts, other than that one horrible night, he, according to them, was a great father and a great husband. And he just had a lot of things going on in his life with failed businesses and things of that nature. It's a really, really sad story. Just a beautiful card with this blue background and the red Chiefs jersey there. And I love that you can actually see his helmet in this picture too, as he's holding his helmet there. There is a documentary that is kind of in the process of being made, and they're looking for funding to kind of complete it. I think that would be a really fascinating thing to see when it gets completed. This next card is a 1964 Topps Clem Daniels. He was actually drafted by the Chiefs, never really got a chance with them, and then got traded to the Oakland Raiders. He is the all-time leading rusher in the AFL. And from 1962 to 1967, he may have been the best all-purpose running back in the AFL. Not only was he a great rusher, but he was also a great receiver out of the backfield. And in 1963, he was named the Sporting News MVP. Again, I really love the blue background on this color. It's just a beautiful looking card. Have the blue back. 1964 Topps has, along with 1965 Topps, has some really nice biographical write-ups on the back that are really interesting. The number 2 rusher in AFL history was this guy, Paul Lowe of the San Diego Chargers. He was also the AFL career rushing yards per carry leader at 4.8 yards a carry. This is a great looking card. The Chargers won the AFL championship in 1963. I love those old Charger uniforms. They're just amazing. And then again with that red front on this card and the Chargers logo in the bottom right hand corner there. This is just a beautiful, beautiful card. One of Paul Lowe's teammates on that team was Keith Lincoln. Now, Lincoln was the 8th all-time leading rusher in AFL history. And in the 1963 AFL championship game, he was the MVP when he rushed for 206 yards and 123 receiving yards. Now, kind of move that to today's game. If you saw someone do that in today's Super Bowl, it would just, I can't even imagine the hype that would be around that person. And so he was just a great, great player. And the Chargers may have gone back to back and won the AFL championship in 1964. But in the 1964 AFL championship game, when the Chargers were playing the Bills, Mike Stratton of the Bills, a linebacker, tackled him, put a really vicious hit on him, knocked him out of the game. The Chargers were up 7-0 when that happened, and the Buffalo Bills went on to win the AFL championship that year, 21-7. This is a just amazing looking card with that red background, that powder blue Chargers uniform, and you even have the hint of the lightning bolt there, and then the blue stars going around the border. Just a fantastic looking card. I have two more cards. This one is a 1967 Topps Harry Jacobs. He was a linebacker for the Buffalo Bills. Buffalo Bills may have had one of the best linebacking corps in football in AFL during that time. Along with Jacobs, you had Mike Stratton and John Tracy. And they were just an incredible linebacking corps that led that Buffalo Bills defense. And Harry Jacobs was really underrated. He was considered kind of the quarterback of that defensive team, calling the plays, and just a ferocious competitor according to his teammates. Now, the last guy I want to talk about is actually a Hall of Famer, but sadly, in my opinion, he's kind of forgotten about. And this is another 1967 Topps card of Billy Shaw of the Buffalo Bills. He played on the offensive line as a guard. He was an 8-time AFL All-Star, and what he is actually kind of known for, he is the only player in the Pro Football Hall of Fame who never played a game in the NFL. His entire career was spent in the AFL, and he was thought so highly of that they still elected him to the Hall of Fame, which I think is incredible, because to me they really kind of downplay the success that some of these players had in the AFL. Anyway, that's what I have for today. I hope you found this interesting. I am going to do a few more of these. And until next time, take care.